Hi, I'm Dolly with the Marriage Support Group, and we are talking to Johnny Lachey today. Johnny, welcome here.
Hi, Dolly.
Now, Johnny, we've had you on a few times. Like, you are really invested in this group. First of all, you are also now an active moderator in the group, and you have made numerous freebies and PDFs, and you've given away countless hours to the members in this group. I just, first of all, want to thank you. And if you are watching today, I really want you to check out Johnny's profile and his resources because he really does come here with a heart to serve and help and support each of these members. So I wanted to, first of all, take a moment and acknowledge you. Really, I really do truly thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, Dolly.
We are talking about forgiveness. Now we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks, leaving 2024 in the past, moving forward with 2025. I personally think that forgiveness is one of the I would say personally, from my experience, what held my marriage back was resentment. So the flip side of resentment is forgiveness. My inability to forgive is really what, on my end of the relationship, held me back from really embracing and loving my husband. He had other issues and dark clouds when it came to me, but mine was resentment. I had carried things 15 years inside of me that were just festering and stewing. And every year came around, and every New Year's Eve, I was like, okay, we're gonna have a great marriage. And every New Year's Day, I carried on that resentment moving forward. So I guess when we're talking about forgiveness, my first question to you, Johnny, is I know that you have a specific approach to forgiveness, and you said it kind of consists of three different angles and sides. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah. Well, this morning while I was talking to my wife about this, there's a story that I'd like to tell is between us. I said, I see there's two sides of forgiveness. There's asking for forgiveness in a way that's worthy and making it easy for your partner to forgive. And then there's actually granting somebody forgiveness, which is not really about the other person, but it's about releasing something, like you were saying, it's releasing something within you that you've been carrying like a weight. So forgiveness is an intentional thing. It's not an emotional thing. It's a thoughtful process of I will forgive, not to forget, but to forgive. But my wife said, well, there's a third rail of forgiveness that is very difficult for a lot of people, and that is forgiving themselves. And it's, you've heard a million expressions about how it's hard to pour from an empty cup or an empty pitcher. You can't love until you love yourself. It's hard to forgive until you can forgive yourself for all the silly behaviors that we picked up along the way, old coping patterns that we held on to for so long. And then we mature, but what do? We revert back to our adopted child, that these coping skills that we learned when we were 7 or 10 or our adolescent years. And we want to be more desired in a relationship, and what do? We stonewall, we pout. That doesn't help. I'll call those losing strategies. But being able to forgive yourself when you realize, oh, I'm doing this and it's hurting my partner. So that's the forgiving yourself was very hard for me when I realized that I was doing things that were not in not only my best interest or my wife's best interest, but for us as a couple.
So when you say that, when you say it was hard for you to forgive yourself, would you say that that's kind of like foundationally why it's hard for people to ask for forgiveness? Like if you can't forgive yourself, would that be holding you back from asking?
Yes, I believe that's 100%. Um, yes, the short answer.
Um, And just going on that note, people that don't forgive or sorry, don't ask for forgiveness, I guess I'm wondering a lot of the posts that we receive are people that feel like they're on that hamster wheel. The same thing happens, they get into the same fight over and over. And yeah, you can say, "Oh, well, I'm sorry," right? And sometimes it's just to get the person to stop bugging them or to stop pouting, right? But what do you do when you are hurt and your partner says, okay, well, sorry, or I'm sorry you feel that way, or something, along the
Mhm.
lines where they're really not taking accountability.
It's not an easy fix. It's not like, oh, this is a good thing I can start doing and using a tactic. Tactics are good if they coordinate with a strategy. It's not about what you say, but who you are when you say it. If you can step back a little bit, I use that four-step process, which Pia Melody invented way back when. Lots of relationship experts use this. It's the first step is when you're talking to your partner, say, listen, honey, from my perspective, this is what I saw. If you could imagine watching a video recording of the event, the transgression, whatever it happened to be, with your partner next to you, and just watching it. It's very factual. You came in the door, I had a baby in my hand, and I was stirring pots at the spaghetti, and you looked up and said, hey, and you walked right out the door, checked your email, and there I was. That is what happened. This is how you recollected it. Well, step two is, how did that make me feel? I mean, well, what story did I make up in my head? When you did this, I thought that self-absorbed blah blah blah. How dare he just ignore me, seeing me with a baby in my hand, and I've been here all day, and I made up this terrible story about you. I thought you were a narcissist. I thought you were this. I thought you were that. Uncaring. That's the story that I made up in my head. I know it's not true, but yeah, this is what I thought. And step three is, this made me feel how? It made me feel sad. It made me feel angry. It made me feel fearful that our relationship is dissolving right in front of me, that I'm losing my best friend. You're allowed to have feelings. It's okay. But when you just express it in a very matter-of-fact way, it leads to the fourth step, which is, I want to grow old together with you. I want us to live happily ever after. So what can we do so that when you come in the door next time and we acknowledge each other and I don't start telling myself stories? Let's collaborate on that. Would that be okay to do? Now, obviously, if they say, go screw you, then there's another step, which is healthy boundaries. That what will you do? What will you not do moving forward is more the question. What will you not participate in if this keeps happening? And that's another whole talk.
Yeah, boundaries is a huge talk. So what I'm hearing you say is basically you take a step back and you kind of look at the situation from an outside perspective. You process what it is that you're truly feeling, and you kind of put it into words that resonate with your spouse as opposed to accusing them, and then paint a picture of possibility and bring options of how to bring that possibility into fruition. Is kind of that the
Yeah,
four-step process, which is
that was
actually really mature. Like it's that takes a lot of maturity, emotional maturity, and relational maturity to do all those things. But that is a really, really great process. I really appreciate that, Johnny. That was good.
yeah. Well, step two is these are the stories that I made up in
Mm,
my head about you.
right. Acknowledging that.
And and being that person that's hearing that, well, I don't want that person to think that way of me.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's really, what's really interesting is that process will help you also communicate with your kids, with colleagues, right? Because once you remove the story in your head and you create a better one or a one of possibility and growth, and you approach them in that way, then you remove all of the hostility or defensiveness and all the other, other negative emotions. I guess so. Let's say you apologize and you are genuinely like Johnny, you went to your wife and you genuinely felt it and you genuinely apologized. What if now she's been triggered, now she's traumatized from that event and she keeps throwing it back in your face? How do you work through that next step?
That is a very good question. Um, Rome wasn't built in a day, and this problem didn't get built in a day either. And when you are remorseful and you realize I've been doing this for how long? Not just today. I've been doing this for years.
Mhm.
Then you once you open up your own empathy for yourself, your own empathic network, system, you can then realize that, oh, I need to win her back. I need to court her all over again so she can now believe that I do feel what is what I did, that I am remorseful, and every day I'm going to get better and better and better, as opposed to saying, oh, well, screw you then. If you don't have that vision of where you want this to end, I remember listening to Stephen King. He never writes the ending first. Somebody asked him, "Do you always write the ending first so you know where you were going to go?" And he says, "What's the fun in that? I like to create as I go." But in a relationship, knowing the ending in sight, that you keep it viscerally in your environment where you want. If you're getting into a conversation and it's not to foster that vision, I invite you to stop. Take a breath. My mom used to tell me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. And she also said, count to 10 before you talk. And that gives you time to use your prefrontal cortex and respond versus react. So if in fact your partner rebuffs you, if you get triggered on top of that, this is not helping your ecosystem. It's not helping the us. It might make you feel good in the moment to fight back, but it's a losing strategy because it's like not putting that boot on your right foot because you're not at it. It doesn't help. So you
Mhm.
need to step back and go, okay, I need to give her some time
Yeah.
and have some understanding around this. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. And I think it's also important, if that's happening to you and your spouse is having a hard time receiving your apology and forgiving you, I think that there is kind of like an, I don't want to call it a timeline, but if it's fresh, you need to continually go back to that place of allowing them to feel that, allowing them to process, allowing their pain to exist, and do whatever it takes to rebuild that solid foundation under their feet. Whatever that looks like, the boundaries that they put into place or consequences or whatever it is that makes them feel safe and rebuild trust, do what it takes. Now, if we're going on years later and every argument ends with them throwing in your face, you need help. There you need professional help because then they are dealing with resentment. And as I said earlier, like resentment will hold you back. Resentment will hold back the relationship. So then your spouse needs to get through that. They have every right to feel it, but they need help with that as well. And I really like it's like Johnny said, Rome wasn't built in a day. So when trust has been broken, when something has happened, it'll take some time. So invest in that time. Put yourself into the rebuild of that.
Can I tell a
So,
story on that if we have
sure.
time?
Okay.
I had a coaching session yesterday with somebody that I met a couple years ago that was in the group actually. And she was steadfast. She had this vision, but her husband left her. And they went through the divorce process, or I think it was mediation, I'm not sure. But she checks in with me like every 6 months or 3 months. We have another session. We did 12 weeks intensive, coaching. But yesterday she said, Johnny, guess what? My husband moved back in. He canceled the mediation and he's now back in. And she did this. I never talked to him. Never met the husband, but she kept fine-tuning how she wanted to be. She became who
Mhm.
she knew she was. She got rid of the layers of resentment, and she got rid of the um, judgment that her husband was at fault. Where you're in it together, and she never lost sight of the whole seesaw. It wasn't just you against me; it was us. And I was so gratified, and it was a great way to start 2025 with my coaching practice because she was so elated.
Mm. Yeah, for years now, I've woken up every morning and I wake up and I focus on forgiveness. Oh, there goes those bubbles again. Every morning I wake up for focusing on forgiveness and focusing on appreciation or gratitude. Every single morning for the last, whatever, 8 years, 9 years, that is my focus. Because when I can start my day forgiving and not holding on to resentment, I know I can have a clean slate. I know I can move forward. And as soon as I focus on gratitude or appreciation, I'm my eyes are open to possibility. My eyes are open to the good things that are happening in my life. And that's just my heart. Everything, the doors are open now. And so I really appreciate you coming here. Here's the thing with Johnny. I mean, he's offering anybody in the group a 1 hour breakthrough call with him. So if you do want to talk more about forgiveness or moving forward, I mean, that is not all that Johnny talks about. He has been an amazing coach in the group. You can, again, go to the resources directory, see what he all talks about. But the link will be posted below for a 1 hour breakthrough call. And this can just help you find, just the root of maybe what's going on and help you, even if it's just one step, taking that one step further into either forgiveness for self, forgiveness towards your spouse, reconnecting, opening up the conversation to possibility. Definitely book a call with Johnny. Johnny, is there anything that you want to add?
Yes. I know not everyone wants to work with a man, and the person on the other side of the screen is a tremendous human being. And she too has resources and has a heart of gold. So, depending on what type of coaching you need and who fits with you, I think finding the right coach is kind of like dating.
Mm,
You have to see what is a good fit because you're expressing so many things. So, I just wanted to give you a shout out and how much I'm grateful for all that you do.
thank you, Johnny. I really appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you very much, Johnny. Appreciate it.
Bye bye.